all, what spooky book I should read for Halloween this week? You voted for The Silent Patient, which works out perfectly because that's actually the book that my book club is reading right now, so thank you for picking that book. I've also got a few other books that I want to read this week, and is it overambitious? Yes. Will I finish this list? Probably not. Am I gonna try? You bet I am. If you're looking for a little bit of inspiration to help you get into the Halloween spirit, then I think you're in the right place because we're going to be reading a couple of spooky but not scary books to really get us in the mood for Halloween. I will admit that I am a scaredy cat. I do not like scary things. I do not like horror. I can't watch scary movies and I can't read scary books. When I say spooky, what I really mean by that is basically PG. My favorite Halloween movies to watch are Hocus Pocus 1 and 2, all of the Halloween Town movies, and Casper the Friendly Ghost. So if that sounds like your vibe, then I've got you. I actually want to know what your favorite Halloween movies are. Comment down below so we can chat about it. So let me show you guys the first book that I'm going to be reading. Another booktuber that I really like to watch. Her name is Olive, I believe, or well, her channel's name is Olive's Book Nook. I saw that she put her books on top of her counter like this, and I thought it was genius because honestly, I love hardcover books and these books are heavy. Silent Patient has been on my TBR for a while now. I've actually read another book by this author. I read The Fury. That one got pretty mixed reviews. I personally enjoyed it for the first 75% of the book until the end of the book. I just felt like the end was just really unsatisfying, but I have heard that this book is much better. So this story is about a famous painter who seemingly has a perfect life, a perfect marriage, until one day she murders her husband in cold blood and never speaks again. So she spends the following years living in an inpatient mental health facility where she works with various doctors and therapists, but they're not able to make any progress with her. However, one therapist who has been closely following her story gets the opportunity to work with her, and the story takes a dark and twisted turn. I'm gonna be honest, I've actually already started reading it, and I'm about 100 pages in so far. It's eerie, slightly disturbing, and it's such a compelling character study, and you would think it would be of Alicia, but it's actually very interesting because the story is told through the perspective of the therapist. His name is Theo, so you get a glimpse into his mind. We really get to explore the therapeutic relationship between Theo and Alicia. I wouldn't say that I'm scared necessarily, but I will say that I am a little spooked. Since this book was marketed as a psychological thriller, I would say that so far it's delivering on that promise. So I'm on chapter 17 right now, and the book just keeps getting better. I feel like there are little revelations that we get in each chapter into Alicia's past and trying to put together why she did what she did, if she did what she did, and if she didn't do what she did, then who did it? I haven't been able to piece it together. I'll be honest, I'm not very good at being a detective. I'm usually wrong when it comes to murder mysteries. Another thing that I think is really compelling so far is that even though Alicia doesn't speak in the present day, there are entries from her journal from before the murder happened. So we get information leading up to that day, and the therapist, Theo, doesn't actually know about these things yet. He's trying to piece everything together without this key piece of information. And I feel like that is a really good way to build tension in a story. That's actually like a mechanism for building tension in like shows and stuff, is revealing something to the audience that the characters in the story are not aware of yet. Another thing that I find really interesting is the exploration of different psychological concepts in this book. I studied psychology in college, and this book talks a lot about transference and countertransference. We get to kind of see, I think, a potentially unhealthy relationship forming. We're going to explore what happens when an unhealthy dynamic starts to really take hold. I feel like I'll be able to finish this book pretty fast and then get to the other books that are on my TBR. So I finished The Silent Patient yesterday. I really intended just to read for like 30 minutes. I just kept wanting to read on. I feel like that's when you know it's a good thriller, when you just have to keep reading because you want to find out what happens. What I think is interesting about him is that he's actually a screenwriter, I believe, turned author. And I listened to a podcast that he was on. He basically talked about how he's really interested in exploring the human condition and really understanding why people do what they do. I like this book as a psychological thriller. As I was reading on, I just felt more and more unnerved by what was going on. Things just kept getting more and more unhinged, and the characters started acting more unhinged. Theo was presented as sort of this like authority figure because he is the psychotherapist. And so I kind of went in with a bias that, you know, he was going to be a reliable narrator. But as the story progressed and you get more details and more insights into the inner workings of his mind, the more I realized that he's actually an unreliable narrator. I know that there were little hints throughout the book and some foreshadowing to indicate that the twist was going to happen, but honestly, I didn't really pick up on it until the very end. I didn't see it coming, and I don't read a ton of mysteries and thrillers, and like I said, I'm not a very good detective. I just enjoyed the tension and the reveal. So I definitely have a couple of things I didn't like about the book, just the way that Alicia was described and also the portrayal and the stigmatization of mental health. Overall, as a psychological thriller, I feel like this book did deliver. I think it was a perfect read to kick off my spooky reading vlog. I wouldn't say that it was scary or spooky. I did feel a little creeped out reading this. I can't say that I would give The Silent Patient 5 stars. Maybe I would give this like a 4.25. So this is definitely the best mystery slash thriller that I've read all year. So if you're looking for a good psychological thriller, then I recommend checking out The Silent Patient. Okay, one book down for our spooky reading vlog. I have another book that you all voted for. The Silent Patient was actually the most voted. Bride was next. So I actually ordered Bride from Aardvark, which is a book subscription service. I think I might have talked about them before on this channel. What I like about book subscription services is that sometimes you're just like not sure what book to read, and there's so many out there. So this kind of takes the guesswork out of that because they curate new books every single month. Typically they're new releases, and sometimes they'll also feature authors that are like relatively unknown. So you get a pretty good variety. It comes in this really nicely packaged box. So I actually got 3 books from them this month, but I think I'm going to save talking about them for a separate vlog because we're focused on all things spooky. But I'll just show you really quick. So I got When the World Tips Over. Really love the cover, it's so pretty. I also got this book, which kind of looks like it would be perfect for Halloween. This is Masquerade, and I wish I could have read this book too, but I just have so many books on my fall slash spooky Halloween TBR, so I don't think I'm gonna get to it. Here it is. This is Bride by Ali Hazelwood, and when this book first came out earlier this year, I feel like I saw this book everywhere. Everybody was reading it, everybody was talking about it, but I'll be honest, I was just a little apprehensive to pick it up because I tried reading one book by Ali Hazelwood. I tried reading, I think it was The Love Hypothesis, and I just could not get through it. I read about 10 or 15% of that book and I just had to DNF it. And I've said this before, I think what made me DNF it was just how she described her MMCs. And some of the words were like, oh, his big hands, his stupid hands. I don't know. I just could not keep reading beyond that. So Ali Hazelwood is pretty known for her romances, specifically with FMCs who are in STEM. I believe she's also a neuroscientist. So I was thinking, let me give it another try. Maybe I just picked the wrong book. So I did read another one. I read Check and Mate, which is a YA romance. And I did talk about that in another reading vlog. That book was okay. It was better than my experience with The Love Hypothesis, but I do love vampires. I do love werewolves. I mean, Twilight for me was like the OG romantasy, right? And I loved that series when I was in high school. So I was thinking for this Halloween vlog, maybe we'll be able to recreate some of that nostalgia by reading Bride. This book follows our main character, Misery Lark, and she is a vampire. In order to uphold the peace, she actually agrees to marry the alpha of the werewolves, and the vampires and the werewolves really, really hate each other and disdain each other because there's just a long history of violence between the two. I forgot to show you all, but it came with this bookmark this month, and it's so pretty. It's like a holographic bookmark, which is definitely an upgrade. The last bookmark that I got from them also had the same shape, but it was made out of like paper, and so I would frequently bend the little ears. I was really sad because this bookmark is so cute, but I'm so happy about this one. It is so, so pretty. It's a little thick, so I don't think I'm gonna be using that bookmark, but while we're on the topic of bookmarks, I wanted to show you all the bookmark that I did pick. I felt like this bookmark is just perfect to go with Bride because it's got like a little wolf howling into the moon, and I just feel like it matches perfectly. So my husband actually bought me this bookmark when my cousins were visiting. We went to this really cute little used bookshop. So we all got bookmarks. I feel like one of my favorite things about reading books is collecting bookmarks and then choosing which bookmark I'm gonna use for the books. Are there any other bookmark lovers out there? Comment down below what you like to use as a bookmark. So I'm about 100 pages in, and I feel like this is a good point to kind of update you guys on my thoughts. This book is set in modern day, but for the first 100 pages, you get a little bit of the foundational stuff that you need to know. You get an idea of the history between the three warring species. There's the humans, the weirs, and the vampires, and the werewolves are called weirs. Or weirs, I think. The weirs are described to be a lot faster and stronger than the vampires, which I think is really interesting because I feel like in most vampire movies and most like vampire books that I've read, vampires and werewolves have their own separate like talents, but there isn't necessarily like a clear-cut winner. But in this world, the weirs are definitely stronger. So they're a huge threat to the vampires. So far, the book is written in a first-person perspective through Misery's perspective. It starts off with these two characters, of course, absolutely loathing each other because of just the deep-rooted history that's happened between their two species. The point where I'm at, I think that they're starting to recognize and respect certain traits in one another. And so far there isn't any spice, but it's got the makings of spice coming later. You know when an author will try to build tension throughout the story by basically saying like, oh, you know, they like nudged hands or whatever. And I have heard that this book is actually quite spicy, so I am like mentally preparing myself for that. It's not that I don't like spice. I mean, I don't really mind it. It just depends on how it's done. I feel like if the author does a really good job of building up to it, but if it kind of seems like it came out of nowhere and it goes on for way too long, then I start to get a little bit like uncomfortable. So of the three I keep combining Hazelwood and Allie together, so I've been saying Hollywood, like Hollywood. Of the three Allie Hazelwood books that I've read, sort of, I like this one the best so far. So that is promising. In true Allie Hazelwood fashion, the way she describes her MMCs to me is just a little like, oh. I really don't like reading about MMCs who are large and big and huge. I don't know what it is about those descriptors that just like really kind of turn me off a little bit. I mean, I get it, right? He's like a giant werewolf, so I understand that, but maybe we only need to say it once. Like, do I really need to know his shoe size? Probably not. Is it relevant to the story? Is it gonna pay off somehow in the end? I don't know, but when I read that, I was like, ooh. So we'll just have to see. There are some good things, there are some not so good things, but so far, we're okay. I'm gonna keep reading it. So my background might look a little different because I moved my chair into this corner. I kind of like that it has this window right in front of me, so I feel like I get a little bit more light, but we'll see if this sticks. First, I wanted to show everybody the bookmarks that I made for Halloween. I made 4 of them, but I don't know where the other one is right now. It must be in one of my books that I'm reading. 2 years ago, I was super into making greeting cards because I have a Cricut and I just love working with paper crafts. I haven't used my Cricut in a while, so what a perfect occasion to bring it back out for this spooky Halloween vlog. I made these bookmarks. This is the first one that I made. This next one, I really love this one. I think this one is so cool. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up on it, but the background actually has tiny little spiders on it too. This one has to be my favorite. So I printed this pattern out using Canva and then I put a bunch of stickers on it. Really excited to use these bookmarks. I mean, Halloween is literally tomorrow, but I think I can still use these for the next couple of weeks. Like I said, I did finish Bride yesterday. Personally, I wouldn't say that this is the kind of book that I like to read. I do like romance, I like fantasy, I like romantasy, but maybe it was just because I've heard so many things about this book and I had high expectations going into it because people talked about it so much. I thought that this book was just okay. There were definitely parts that I did enjoy, but I think there were more parts that I didn't enjoy. So I gave this book 3 stars. It just didn't really hit for me. I personally think that Bride is more of a romance than anything. I feel like the only part of the book that even makes it like a paranormal romance or like a fantasy romance is the fact that our characters are vampires and werewolves. I didn't really feel like the world was super in-depth or rich or really that immersive. But what I really love about reading fantasy and romantasy is being drawn into the world and feeling like I'm in a completely new place. To me, the world felt a little bit lackluster. I didn't really get the sense of being transported somewhere new. I also don't think that I really loved any of the characters in the book. I wasn't particularly like connected to any of them and I wasn't really invested in any of the stories. I feel like there was nothing necessarily I didn't like about Misery or Lo or any of the characters. There just wasn't really anything that unique about them that, you know, really made me fall in love with the characters. I think what I did find cool about the book was how Ali Hazelwood described the different species, and she described them in a way that was more biological as opposed to supernatural. She talked about how vampires are pretty similar to human genetics, except there are just little mutations in the genes. So, you know, I think that's like a callback to her background as a neuroscientist. So I think that was kind of cool, exploring how these different species came about to live together. But other than that, honestly, I just wasn't really wowed by this book. I don't really understand the hype around the book. I wouldn't say that this is a bad book. I just personally didn't find it very compelling. It's not something that I would want to like go rush out and read again, and I don't think I would recommend this book as like a spooky Halloween book. Another thing I want to say about this book is that it is extremely spicy. And I've read some spicy books before, but I think this is the most explicitly spicy book that I've read this year. So Ali Hazelwood really leaves nothing to the imagination. I knew this book was going to be spicy because I've already heard other people talking about it. I just was not prepared for all of that. There are like entire chapters where it's literally just explicit scenes. And when I read spicy scenes, I think I prefer something's left to the imagination. But with this book, there were very explicit, very detailed, very vivid descriptions of what was going on. Like I said, this went on for like an entire chapter. I think there are a couple chapters in the book where that's literally all that's happening. And again, Ali Hazelwood really, really loves to describe how big and how large her MMCs are. And do you remember when I was talking about Misery, learning about Lo's shoe size and wondering, is this gonna be relevant later? Is this gonna like come up again? It definitely came up again. And I guess I kind of see now why Misery discovered how big his shoes were. I just don't know if I needed to know all that. I don't know if I really needed to visualize and imagine all of that. It could have been a little bit more demure. a little bit more mindful. If you like super spicy books, you might enjoy Bride. However, if you do not like spice or you prefer things to be a little more subtle, then you might find this book a little bit too much. And for me, I will say it was a little bit too much. Has anyone else read Bride? If you have, comment down below. Let me know what you think. I really wanted to read The Familiar for this Halloween vlog, but I definitely didn't have time to get to it. I think I'm gonna have to read that book another time. But of the two books that I read for this spooky vlog, I definitely preferred The Silent Patient. I feel like that definitely gave me the spooky vibes that I was looking for. Bride just fell a little bit short of all of my expectations. So I'm probably gonna have to watch a bunch of Halloween movies today and tomorrow to really get into the Halloween spirit. I think I'm just gonna end this vlog right here. If you like today's video, then please consider subscribing to the channel so you can come and hang out with me. I love talking about self-care books and all things cozy lifestyle, and I try to post every Friday. And leave me a comment down below as well. I'd really love to know what your favorite spooky tradition is for this time of the year. Thank you again so much for watching. I'm so glad that you joined me for today's spooky vlog. And as always, take care of yourself because you deserve it. And I'll see you in my next video.